Alright, welcome back guys. Raccoon MMA here. Sorry about the delay in this video. I wanted to get it out yesterday like I normally do, but I had to deal with a bit of food poisoning. So I've tried to bounce back just in time to get this video out for you guys before UFC 303 actually comes out. Good fight, a lot of confusion about what this card was actually going to be, but we finally got it settled down, so it's time for some picks. Of course, before we get into those, I've got to do my MMA culpa, so you know that I've actually kind of know what I'm talking about here. I have picked 74 fights on this channel so far. Of those, 47 have been correct, so that's a 64% accuracy, guys. It's been going down recently. I haven't been doing a good job on recent cards. So we're going all out today. We're doing a lot of picks. I'll try and keep this quick because of it. So, yeah, 64% accuracy. Of those 74 fights picked, 4 of them, I believe, were robberies that should have gone my way. So if you agree with me about those, then my accuracy is actually 70%. But over to method accuracy, that is if I pick a fight correctly, do I pick it, by submission, by TKO, by decision, things like that. Every fight from last card that I picked correctly, I got the method right. So that brings me up to a 71% accuracy. So that has gone up, even though my pick accuracy has gone down, so that's good. Let's get into some quick picks, things I won't get into in depth. We're going to start the card off here with Michelle Waterson-Gomez versus Jillian Robertson and Peyton Talbot versus Yanis Khemuri. I am picking Jillian Robertson and Peyton Talbot to win these ones. I don't think those are the most surprising picks. I think you guys will agree with me on those ones. Okay, moving on. We also have Charles Jourdain versus Jean Silva from Brazil, and Marc-Andre Berriot versus Joe Pyfer. And I'm going to pick, not just because they're Canadian guys, I actually have reasons for believing this, Charles Jourdain and Marc-Andre Berriot to win these fights. And finally, we have Cub Swanson versus Andre Fili, good battle of the vets there, as well as Anthony Smith versus Roman Dolidze. And I'm going to be picking Andre Fili and Lionheart himself, Anthony Smith, to win these fights. Okay, let's move on to our main card opener. Ian Garry versus Michael Venom Page. Really good fight, guys. I am super bought into this fight. I think that everyone wanted the Wonder Boy fight for MVP, and everybody wanted Ian Garry. Well, I think people hate Ian Garry for whatever reason, so maybe they didn't. But realistically, Ian Garry probably should have been fighting up. But I think that is, in terms of a clash of styles, this is a really, really good fight, right? You kind of get, both these guys are so fast and good at the medium to long range, and both these guys are so good at their sort of linear movement, forward and backwards. And so I think this could make, and they neither of them really like to clinch, so I think this could make a really, really interesting striking battle that is going to be very easy on the eyes, I think. Not that type of Jack Slack type of fight where, you get lots of clinching and framing people to strike and things like that. I think there's going to be a lot of open striking, which is, not always the most interesting, but certainly in terms of just monkey brain watching people throw down, a lot of fun. I think that a lot of this fight is going to come down to Ian Garry's speed and combo striking and accuracy, i.e. does he crash in and get tagged, or does he jump in and hit Michael Venom Page with a combo or two, right? Because typically guys who have fought MVP have thrown 1 or 2 punches and left it at that, right? We saw Kevin Holland try that approach, and it didn't work, right? And this is how MVP is able to style on people. And I just don't think Ian Garry is going to do that, which is what makes this fight interesting, right? I think probably he can make MVP work harder to hit him than Kevin Holland did, and probably harder than anybody in Bellator could make MVP work. MVP has 2 losses. One was by getting wrestle fucked, and one was by somebody who's kind of able to draw him out and make him try and get too flashy and tag him. So is Ian Garry going to be able to do that with combo work? Maybe, right? But on the other hand, MVP has this really, really excellent movement over the short range. He's going to hit Ian Garry with things he won't expect. He's got a really excellent array of trips and throws that will frustrate Ian Garry. And yeah, as I said, neither of these guys really like to clinch, and they do pursue their sort of linear movement at all costs. They thrive in the long to medium range. I think ultimately, though, Ian Garry's ability to throw in combination as well as his speed will do him huge favors here, quite simply because he will catch MVP more than MVP will catch him. I don't really want either guy to lose this fight because they're both so entertaining to watch, right? MVP really probably only has one shot at the title considering his age, and I don't want all those weirdos to be happy if Ian Garry does lose, so I'm kind of rooting for both to win these fights, but I am going to say Ian Garry wins a decision here, 29-28, 30-27, something like that. Nothing too dominant, but I think he probably does just outstrike MVP in this fight, wins by decision. Okay, up the card. Mayra Bueno Silva versus Macy Chiasson. Good fight. I think that people are only complaining about this fight because they always complain about women. And to be fair, because in Mayra Bueno Silva's last fight, Raquel Pennington did what she had to do to shut her game down, right? Which is stifle her offense early, frustrate her, tire her out, and then just do whatever you want with her. Chiasson is a big underdog in this fight, and I understand why, right? MBS is a finisher. She's looked very good in all of her recent fights, except for her last one, right? Like, she submits people all the time, ever since she came back up to bantamweight. And also, like, a 3-round fight definitely plays in her favor because of how dangerous she is, especially in the first round, but also just in the first two. And considering how her gas tank was half of her downfall at UFC 297, I think that, it'll be kind of better for her to go back to this 3-round fight as a way to figure that one out, right? But I don't actually think that this fight is a layup for her, as the odds seem to suggest. Chiasson hits harder than MBS does, and also than a lot of people at 135 do, except, I don't know, maybe Irene Aldana, maybe Shevchenko if she came back up, maybe how hard Nunes did hit before she retired. And MBS does have relatively poor striking defense. She gets hit a lot. Of course, MBS is a submission artist. She's going to be looking to clinch. She's going to be looking to push Chiasson against the fence, take her down, things like that. But Chiasson has very good anti-grappling, and we saw in her last fight that when MBS isn't able to kind of put it on somebody early, she does kind of wilt. Has she overcome this? Who knows, right? Maybe she's gone back after that fight and worked on a bunch of things, and she's coming out Mayra Bueno Silva 2.0 so much better. But it's not been that long since January, right? So who knows? I think that this fight will rest on whether Bueno Silva can finish it in the first 4 minutes, because if she can't, Chiasson will take over and just kind of bully her way into advantageous striking positions and even grappling positions with her size, with her strength, right, and with her pressure. Right, Chiasson has only really lost the top of the division. As big a fan as I am of Irene Aldana, she was kind of losing that fight to Chiasson before that crazy knockout kick. So I do think she's being fairly underrated here. But I am going to pick the underdog here. I think that Macy Chiasson dominates the second and third round to comfortably win a decision here in a fight that's going to be a lot more fun than people are giving credit for being. I don't really care who wins. This is Irene Aldana's division, or it's Kayla Harrison's, and I don't really care who gets fed to either of them. But I'm going to pick Macy Chiasson by decision. Okay, moving on to the co-main. Brian Ortega versus Diego Lopes. Great fight. Typically, short notice fights like this will benefit the less known fighter, right? Because there's less tape to watch. So anything that you pull out, and especially if you're younger, right? Like, you're learning new tricks faster. So that's something to keep in mind. I think also, right, Brian Ortega, he's tough as nails, right? This guy never gives up. He's got pretty decent striking. He hits hard. Great submission grappling. He's very strong in the clinch. Not a great wrestler, but he kind of thugs things out until he can get a takedown. And he's willing to get beat up to get that takedown, knocked out to get that takedown. Some people have been saying that, like, maybe Ortega's famous chin has finally cracked, considering Yair Rodriguez knocked him down in their fight. But I kind of doubt it, right? I just think he hadn't really fought guys who knock people out before he fought Yair, right? Like, Max Holloway doesn't really knock people out, right? The Gaethje fight was up a weight class, right? Volkanovski, again, doesn't really knock people out. He knocked Yair Rodriguez out, but apart from that, like, he goes to decision a lot. And besides, like, yeah, Yair dropped him, but he survived that. I think that Diego Lopes does hit crazy hard, though. Like, he knocks people out. He's really good in the clinch. And when he is in the clinch, he's got those kind of sneaky hooks and uppercuts. That's how he won his last 2 fights. And great footwork, right? It's that kind of classic Lobo gym boxing that serves people like Alex Grasso, Arena Aldana, Lupe Godinez, Alessandro Costa, and, you know, all these people kind of taking over the Mexican regional scene so well. And Ortega does absorb a crazy amount of strikes. Like, he does get hit a lot. And so I think that because both guys are comfortable on the ground, and because Ortega is going to get hit by things he doesn't want to get hit with early on, it's probably going to end up on the ground sooner rather than later. Is Lopes super strong on the ground in terms of, like, positions and transitions and being able to force his way through things? Probably not as strong as Ortega, who seems really powerful in these grappling exchanges. But I do also think, like, despite that, there's going to be a mental factor here, because I don't think Ortega's heart is in this fight. Right? He's already said that win or lose, he's moving up to lightweight because he doesn't see a place for himself in the title picture here, which, fair enough. I'd like to see him fight, like, Oliveira or something at the Sphere. Probably Diego Lopes decides after the first round, or whatever, halfway through the first round, that he wants to keep it standing, largely. And I think that if he wants to keep it standing, he will. And I think that he can knock Ortega down and TKO him in the second or third. Love Diego Lopes. Go Lobo Gym. Picking him by TKO here. Okay, on to our main event. Alex Pereira versus Jiri Prochazka. I've messed up the slide here, but I'm too sick and tired to fix it. Yeah, so we saw this one play out before. Obviously, you can see that I'm picking Alex Pereira again. I think that Yuri's got a chance, but as you can see, like, I'm not giving a big chance. I don't think that anything that went wrong for him in their first fight, he fixed, judging by the Alexander Rakic fight. Obviously, there were things that went wrong for Alex in that fight too, but not enough for him to lose, right? I think that, like, against Alex, Yuri looked really good at medium range. And Alex does have a bad habit of, like, backing up in a straight line to the cage. And once he's against the cage, he's not bad at circling out, but he will allow himself to be backed up to the cage. And Yuri's really good at that with those, like, combos, the unorthodox strikes, right? If Alex isn't really able to block or use his head movement because he doesn't know what's coming, he's just going to back up in a straight line to the cage. This gives Jiri Prochazka an opportunity, but of course, it also led to him being knocked out in their first fight. Even if that was an early stoppage, it put him in a really bad position that was probably going to lead to him losing the fight anyways. I've heard some people say that Yuri's poor octagon control or sort of sense of distance in that fight was ring rust, but again, like, I don't want to put things up to intangibles like that. I think that Alex's distance management is very good. Not as good defensively as I've just mentioned, but very good offensively. Like, he's very good at managing how far a person is in front of him and knowing what weapons to use, depending on what the distance is. And I think that going into this fight, the way that Alex won last time and knocked Yuri out might make him a bit ginger on the things that gave him success in the first place, right? These long combos that backed Alex up to the cage, that big aggression, right? And I think that there's a pretty good chance that he's a bit more careful, which just gives Alex a bit more time to do those cumulative attacks that will end up winning him in the fight, like those leg strikes that we saw were such a huge, benefit in the first fight. And now Alex knows even more that, like, no matter what both these guys say, I'm approaching it like the first time, Alex knows that those leg kicks really worked against Yuri because he loves those unorthodox lead hand attacks, and so he needs to be heavy on his lead leg, which is just a prime target for Alex to kick this shit out of it. Yuri tries to counter those by jabbing, but all Alex really needs to do there is lean backwards a little bit. And, yes, you can exploit that if you're doing a combo as Yuri, but when your leg is involuntarily moving all over the place, you're really going to struggle to do that in any meaningful way. So I think that probably what we're going to see is a more ginger Jiri Prochazka and more cumulative strikes by Alex, who will be a bit more careful than he was, because we saw him getting tagged a little bit in the last fight, but I think that a more careful fight between both these guys does benefit Alex Pereira. And so I don't think it's going to end as soon as it did last time. But I think by the third or fourth round, right, like things are really going to accumulate on Jiri. We saw the way that Alexander Rakic was able to totally take advantage of him, and it just decides to stop caring about damage. You can't play that game with Alex Pereira. I said this in their last fight, and I was right. And I think that Jiri shouldn't change who he is and the type of fighter that he is, because that wouldn't serve him well at this point in his career. But the type of fighter that he is not a fighter that I see being able to beat Alex Pereira. Obviously, I'm giving him this 20% chance because anything can happen. He hits hard. He hits weird. He tagged Alex in their last fight. Like, I can totally see him landing something. But I think he's going to get outclassed. I think he's going to lose. All right, guys. That'll do it for me. Sorry this is a shorter video. Again, I am very ill, so I just wanted to get through it. But I wasn't going to leave you guys without a video. Thank you for watching. If you did like, please subscribe. Please like the video. It helps the channel. It tells me that you're liking the content. Maybe I'll put some more stuff out. And yeah, thank you very much. I'll see you in the next one.